Okay, in this presentation, I want to go over the literature review and how it fits into your capstone paper. A literature review is a narrative survey of the academic literature on your topic. Okay, so it's focused on scholarly research and theory and all the stuff that scholars have done. So you're essentially looking at journal articles, and obviously there are books involved too, but it's a narrative survey of the academic literature on your topic. And it is, therefore, this is a huge thing. It's focused on the research that people have done, not the topic itself. If you're talking about the topic in and of itself in the lit review, you're probably wrong. You need to be talking about what people have done and said about the topic and how they have approached it. Okay, so that's a key thing. And the lit review determines what research has and has not been done, right? You try to say, all right, what have people done? What questions have they asked, right? What types of questions have they asked and what haven't they asked? And what answers have they found and what have they not found, right? And to that extent, or to that point, it examines the methods used and the results obtained. Okay, so you're being critical, you're assessing, okay, what have people, what's the support, right? What kind of research have they done? What, they've looked at it and they've come up with some answers. Well, how did they do that? However, it is broad in scope. It's meant to get the lay of the land. And so, you are going to look for things like schools of thought and different debates and all. And it is broad in scope, although you will now and then focus on particular parts of the research. It is broad in scope, trying to get a lay of the land. Functionally, when you write your lit review or when you work on it at first, it's going to narrow the topic of your paper and lead to your research question, to what you're actually going to do. Because the decision of what you do depends on what other people have done to a very large extent. So as a process, it will narrow the topic. Now, at the end, when you write the final paper, you will have a final product, a final literature review, which you will write not as a stream of conscious or a blow by blow of your thought process, but you'll write it as, you're done with your research and here's what went before, and, here is the opportunity for my research, so you'll write it in, it will be written as a finished product. Keep that in mind. So there is some difference between what you have at first, especially when you are working on, going through the process of research. Your lit review will look one way, and then you'll kind of edit it a bit for the final product. What lit reviews are not, they're not a term paper or factual background or historical background. And the key thing here is you focus on the research, not the topic. It is about what scholars have done on your overall topic, right? And generally in your topic, you have a dependent variable, the thing you're trying to explain, right? And you may have a independent variable that you're interested in seeing how that affects something, right? And so you may have a cause and effect relationship that you're interested in. That's fine too. But that you're going to be looking into the research on your dependent variable primarily, and to an extent the independent variable. But probably you're looking for, in the lit review, you're identifying where people have said that independent variable is important, right? And so really, the dependent variable is the thing that defines what your lit review is on, right? More than anything else. And a lit review is not an annotated bibliography. It is not a collection of here's everything written on this subject with a little blurb about what it is. No, it's you will mention some things, just mention them. You may just have refer to something in a citation, and you will tend to group things together. Okay, and so it is a time to look at the forest, not the trees, right? An annotated bibliography is a laundry list of the trees with little descriptions of each tree. that lit review is a description of the forest with the lay of the land and what are schools of thoughts and that sort of thing. And it is not a review article of individual papers either, right? Same goes here. So that's what they're not. And the key thing, the biggest thing is that first thing. You're focused on the research, not the topic. And if you start off just writing about your topic, even using the previous research as kind of documentation of points of view, well, that's term paper, right? What we're interested in is a lit review, a description, of what has gone before, because we're looking at two things. You have to demonstrate accumulation. You need to build on the work of others, and you need to demonstrate originality. You need to do something that hasn't been done. So you need to build on the work of others and add to it, as I say. And that's why we want to focus at the first part on the literature, not the topic. Okay, so as I said, you're going to look at what people have done and not done. You can identify schools of thought. Baglioni, in the book that is recommended with the Capstone, talks about that a lot. And I also say, well, what about debates, or essentially in your lit review, you're going to be trying to see, hey, where have people, where do we have differences of perspective or conclusions or theories about what causes my dependent variable, or what affects it, what's going on in the world, right? And where you have those different schools, you have opportunities, right? And so that's important to do. You're also going to, like I say, you're going to look at the methods used, and in all of this, you're looking at, not only are you kind of looking at this stuff to kind of get a sense of what's been done, but you're also looking as, what are the tools I can use? What are the explanations that I think are good, that are worth testing, right? You can buy into a school of thought, right? And then propose some kind of test or research to see if it's supported by the data, right? But, you're also, as part of this lit review, you are going to be identifying the concepts, the theories, the explanations of the world that you're going to use in your paper and possibly test or examine how they worked in a case, whatever you end up doing. So this is very important. And with the methods, you're very often looking, hey, maybe somebody has looked at at a similar situation to what you're looking at, right? Maybe you're examining democratization in Arab countries. Well, maybe there's some other research that's looked at it in different times or different regions that could, what they did there could be applied to your area in some way, right? I mean, and always it's great to use the methods of other people. You say you're doing it, but you're doing it in a new way or in a new case. That's building on the research of others and using it and adding to it, or going in and demonstrating originality. So that's why you're focusing on this literature. You're identifying gaps or opportunities for research, right? And in general, your research has to fit. You need to sell us that what you're doing in the paper that you're turning in week 6 is, in fact, fits in with the existing literature. The worst thing you can do is have a lit review that's totally disassociated and has no obvious connection, and that you also in your narrative need to talk about the connection, but it needs to make sense, right? Here's what's been done. So we understand now why you're doing what you're doing and how it fits in with the existing research. So this is so important, right? And that's why I have a whole slide. Identify how your research fits. This is the point. Lit reviews are the lead into your research, and you need to build on the past research and add to it, right? So that's why I often say to people, look, you go through the lit review process to identify your research question. That is to say, you have a broad topic that you're interested in, and you do work on it. You research it, what has been done on it. You research the literature. You figure out what they have and haven't done, and hopefully you develop a focus or a question that is kind of suggested by it all. And when you come to your question that way, it's obvious how it fits with the literature, and you're a go at this station. You're good to go. And that's why, I like, this, that's supposed to be the process. And so you're identifying your research question. What are you actually going to look at, right? What are you actually going to do? And what are you going to do? Case study, and what are you going to ask? What question are you going to ask, or what hypothesis are you going to test in your in what you finally do? And it should all make sense, right? It should come out of the research at the lit review, the survey of this past research, and that survey will contextualize it. It'll tell you why it's important and what it means when we find an answer, and why are we bothering with this. So this is very important, and you want to get it right. And this is a hard requirement. This is not a trivial part of your research at all. Now, for some trivial, here are some more trivial points. Write in narrative form, for the love of God. No bullets. That goes with everything. And it should go without saying, use proper citations. Author date, right, is what we're looking for. The APSA or APA thing. And with everything, people are always like, do I double space it? Yeah, whatever. There's no set number of sources, right? You want to go wide. There's not like, okay, I got 5 people here. And in fact, you should have a lot, right? These are things that you want to, you want to go wide, identifying schools of thought. But you only go into depth on important pieces of work, right? And you should be developing a sense of that from reading the literature. And by the way, keep in mind, as you're doing this, you are going to be taking advantage of other people's lit reviews, right? And that's why you go to scholarly stuff. And you're not going to read every damn thing that was ever written on your topic. Part of the process is, it's a scavenger hunt in some ways, is you're going out, you're searching, you're looking, and you get an article on your topic, and it has a lit review, and it talks about, and by the way, it's never titled a lit review, but there's a section in the beginning where they talk about what other people have done. That's the lit review. And they will discuss and mention important works, and that's a big part of how you get a broader sense, right? Is you get it from reading other people's lit reviews. So you can cite groups of body. You don't have to have read everything in great detail. That's why papers have abstracts, so you can see what's going in there, right? When you're going wide, and then you're going to say, okay, maybe there's something I want to go into some more depth on. Okay, go into depth on it. And there should be a reason for going into depth on it. It's either very important, or it's conceptually, they talk about seminal works. Seminal works are works that affect everything that comes after them, or a lot of works that come after them. And so you might talk about those more. So that's just something to keep in mind. But it should, be flowing to this point. You're trying to get to the point of, hey, here's what's been done. Here's a question that's left unanswered. I'm going to answer it. I mean, that maybe not in so many words, but in some way, that's what you're trying to get with the lit review, right? And so that's what's so important here. So keep that all in mind.